think here we are. Okay, it says streaming. Or am I dreaming? Good morning, everybody. We're here with Lynn and Sharon, and we are studying or reading a book by Carol Howe called Never Forget to Laugh. And it is the story of Bill Thetford and the scribing of A Course in Miracles. So William Thetford was the co-scribe and more than likely the basic inspiration for A Course in Miracles. Uh, it was, I hope it's up on the screen here. And anyway, good morning. Yes, it says participant can see. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to start out with a prayer and hope that you will join me. I am here only to be truly helpful. I'm here to represent you, God, my Father, the Christ who sent me. I don't have to worry about what to say or what to do because you who sent me will direct me. And I'm content to be wherever you wish, knowing that you are right here with me. And I am healed as I let you teach me to heal. Amen, amen, amen. All right. So we're at the part of the text where Carol and Bill have just reconnected. They had connected earlier in another setting and actually met each other at Regis College, which I think is a university now. It's where I went to school. They had met the first time there. And then later they actually came together. Carol went to, is it not Temecula, but you see what if I can see the name of it. Anyway, Tiburon, and met him again. So Carol speaks. From that first moment of reconnection, oops, let me fix this so that people can hear me on. I always forget this. Okay, there we go. Hopefully they can hear me on Gather. From that first moment of reconnection, Bill and I both recognized we were old friends from ancient time and place. We seemed to take up where we had left off, with a heartwarming degree of openness and a lack of formality or pretense. He seemed very willing to include Jason and me in his daily life, and a wonderful new chapter began to unfold for all three of us. We spent the rest of the morning at his apartment, then ambled down to Main Street for a 4-hour lunch. When it was time to leave, Bill asked if we knew Jerry Jampolsky. We told him that we did not, and he said, well, you must meet Jerry. So off we went to his office, a short distance away. Jerry was still a practicing psychiatrist, and his next patient was fortuitously late. We know how that goes, right? Holy Spirit runs the schedule. So his next patient was fortuitously late. So for the four of us gathered in his office, changing my glasses, for a half-hour visit. Again, I experienced that intense, rich feeling, sensing the quote-unquote family was reconvening after a long absence. This feeling was accentuated by a strong pressure in my heart area, another first in my experience. It is difficult to describe that day except to say it was quite breathtaking. Bill and I were together most of the time over the next several days, with Jason joining us as his schedule permitted. The adventure simply got better and better. Jerry kindly invited Jason and me to join in what I call the first family of the course at their daily study prayer group, almost always held at his home, but occasionally at the Scutches. At 9 o'clock every morning, Jerry, Bill, Bob, and Judy Scutch, Francis Vaughn, and Roger Walsh, the man she later married, would meet for about an hour to read a lesson, sit quietly to see how it might apply personally, and visit in an open and sharing way. And then in parentheses, she says, Francis and Roger are both distinguished in their respective fields of psychology and psychiatry, and pioneers in the area of transpersonal psychology. Of paramount importance was the feeling in the room, the feeling of people deeply caring about one another. Jason and I were most grateful to be included, and for the next several years, every time either of us were there, we were invited to the meeting. Wow, what a crazy thing to be invited to study the lessons with these incredible
I
people.
know, right? I wish, and it's just, I love this stuff. Yeah, Dad, I'm sorry.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's great. No, it just is amazing to me.
I feel the same way you do. I love it.
It
Yeah.
just seems magical to me. It just seems magical to me. And take a sip of my coffee. You know, I have, I know how that feels. I know that feeling of just being uplifted and being with people that are just so attuned and aligned. So I can just see, I can feel it right now. Um, that courtesy was also extended to Jules Feingold, Pat Hopkins, and a few others who did not live in Tiburon when they were in town. And then in parens, Pat became a regular participant when she moved to Tiburon, end of parens. As an added bonus, Jason and I spent a delightful evening with Bob and Judy Scutch. Judy is an effervescent, lively woman. Bob, her husband at the time and man of fewer words, is engaging and supportive in a more subdued and in a more subdued manner, and still manages the business side of the Foundation for Inner Peace. As we became better acquainted that evening, Judy suddenly exclaimed, I know why you're here. After all his years in academia, Bill needs to be socialized. I bequeath you Bill. Wow. What exactly that would entail, I wasn't sure, but without a doubt, I was delighted with the assignment. Right from the beginning, Judy seemed consistently to play the role of Bill's, quote, big sister, offering comfort, stability, and a large dose of loving acceptance and goodwill. She said, I knew the way knowing is encapsulated in your mind. Oh, I knew the way knowing is encapsulated in your mind that I was to take care of him, Bill, the rest of his life. Just as Helen knew when she first saw Bill, he was the one she was supposed to help. I can see the two of us, quote, in brackets, she and I, played such a similar role. Lael Luckett, who appears later in Bill's life, got a little rhapsodic and commented on what a great older sister I was. And I said, whoa, he was 8 years older than I. She wrote back with a little smile sign and said, it doesn't matter. You were his older sister. And of course, that makes me think, there is no age. Age is a construct. And, there's no difference between a newborn and 100-year-old person. We've all been alive the same amount of time because uh, we are the original being, the Son of God. So,
Yeah, we're all still together. It's amazing. It's like, now I met Judy when I bought the course. I didn't know anyone that did it other than Miriam Williamson. So I
uh-huh.
wrote to her, what a doll. She said to
Oh,
me, do not look at the lessons. I mean, do not try to understand the lessons. That's what she said. And that helped me enormously. So, although I did still try to understand it, that was the ego. Anyway, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
that's pretty good. That's really good. I didn't know that you knew Judy. So that's
Well, I didn't really know. I only knew her to just on the phone. She was the first person because I was like, what is this? The mind had a fear that I was going to become Christian. And you see, when you're brought up Jewish, you can't be Christian. Oh my God, no, they're just so ridiculous.
Oh yeah, no. And I understand that completely because it's like saying, you're going to become when I became a Baha'i, a lot of my family thought I was becoming um, Islam. I was becoming a Muslim because it's based from the Muslim belief. So But I was not not even considering becoming a Muslim. It was not like that at all. So I can understand how your Christian family
Yeah,
or your
my mother called. I had told her that, I love Jesus. I don't know why I said that to her. And she called my sister and said, "Oh my God, she's going to be Christian." So-
yeah. Yeah, it's a terrible thing. I mean, it just means it's just like when we talk about Islam and in this culture, and in the Jewish culture, I mean, it's considered to be horrendous, right? That's why people are so upset about anything connected to Islam in this country, because we just it's seen as being an enemy, but really it's not at all, and it's just the way that people run it. The same way with Christianity. If you told me, Lynn, we're all going to be this is going to become a Christian nation, I would be freaking out because that's why we have uh, separation of church and state here
Let's
because
hope we keep it, honey. I'm kidding.
yeah. Well, and uh, the all the fears, and I noticed it myself. You were talking earlier about, the idea of, what's coming up in the elections and the the idea that something could go astray of God's plan is ridiculous. And so, that includes the years that, Trump was president. That includes all of these things are all part of the plan. And the plan is not to make us miserable. The plan is to make us see what we're doing and that we're the ones who are doing it. Because until I understood that I'm the one who's doing all this. I am the one who's doing all this. So blame me. I did it. But it's true because this is the world I want to see. I want to see a world that is full of fear and anger, and a little bit of hope and a little bit of love, all those things, because it is what makes me special. It's just like, when you're a child, if you're a child and your parent, nobody pays attention to you, then your specialness becomes nobody paid attention to me. If you were a child and everybody was mean to you, your specialness becomes everybody was mean to me. When you're a child and everybody loves you, your story becomes either everybody loves me or they're all faking me out or something suspicious because the ego can't claim reality. It's impossible for the ego to claim reality. So the ego is going to claim whatever, whatever persona, whatever world is going to keep the specialness going and keep us, um, believing in the body, believing in the world as being our salvation. It's not a bad thing. That's the ego's job. That was what it was invented for. You can't forget that if I'm a part of God's plan, the ego's part of God's plan too. You cannot forget that there is nothing that is happening here that was not planned for me, for my own good. What is the purpose of it? It I kind of look at it and say, I can't know really what the purpose of it is, but I honestly believe that the purpose of it is to um, express God, express God in form. And that's what we're doing. We're expressing God in form, and we're looking at every argument that would make God not real, and seeing that it can't be true. We're looking at every argument that would make God not caring, and we have to come to understand that that simply can't be true. So it's not getting to know what God is not, it's getting to know what God is. And that's an expression of love. So, the ego is an expression of love. Think about that. That all these things are expressions of love. They're given to us so that we can see the truth about the reality of what's real. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. You just said that a little bit ago. And that's really what's happening here. So, this whole story of Carol and Bill and Judy and Helen and all these people, these were all given to us so that we could look through them and say, what is really happening? What is real here? And if only love exists, then it has to be love. It can't be anything else. So the ego is love. It can't be anything else.
Well, the ego is love or a call for love, but the ego is just concepts. So it doesn't, it's not wrong or right. It's just, so yeah, the ego in the end, it's all love. That's what the lesson is, forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, all the fears that we have about what has happened or what is going to happen, those are all baseless fears and basically saying, I don't trust God. I don't trust myself. I don't trust. And if you just trust, then you know that everything is going to work out. And when you trust, you'll know that everything is guided and everything is for my own best interest. So, I'm grateful for that. That's what a gift that is.
I
So,
am too. And I think what's really amazing is as we progress and we, on this path, everything the course says is true. And see, there would be a part of me that would kind of like, well, dismiss it, but
right.
I can't dismiss it anymore.
Right, like,
So,
oh, that's just a symbol or just try.
right,
It is, it's all symbols, but it's all symbols that are communicating from out of time and space to
right.
a mind that believes that it is time and space. So I'm just like we both said, very grateful for the opportunity to do this. So let's see. I'm just reading this. It doesn't matter. You were his older sister. I never thought of it like that, but I knew he was my assignment. It didn't mean I was to control his life, only that I would be his safety net. And that's another thing, the safety net. That's what we are for each other. We're here to be safety nets for each other as well, because we're one being. So it's like if I want to take care of my body, I want to make sure that my big toe is not damaged or cut off or whatever. But if I want to take care of my being, my life, I want to make sure that no other brother or sister is cut out from my life either, because it's a part of me. And that's why, these political characters that we get so excited and upset about, they're a part of me. My job is not to cut them out. My job is to love them, because that's a part of me that if I don't love it, um, it can't progress, it can't grow, it can't become what it truly is. I can't become what I truly am. um that's it's this is a big thing for me right now, because I'm looking at how my beliefs are influencing the world, and how my desire for chaos is reflecting in what I see. So, that's what I have to figure out. It's me, it's me, it's me. Okay. So Carol says, As if carried on a tide of good fortune, I found myself the junior partner in this big sister enterprise. And as with Judy, Bill did seem lighter and more reassured when we were together. Well, this is just so sweet that she would know that. Judy and I never confided our sisterly conspiracy to him, nor do we know what he might have thought about our prescription for his, quote, re-socialization, unquote. But he did flourish during our times together. During his early days in California, Judy was still traveling, speaking extensively on behalf of A Course in Miracles, and was not in Tiburon on a regular basis. Thus, she welcomed anyone who could play a surrogate role and provide a stabilizing influence for Bill. Wow. He had spent decades operating at a frantic pace with his multifaceted work, including the time-consuming edition of the course from 1965 to 1976. Considering all the upsets and opportunities for psychological growth that had occurred simultaneously with his workload at Columbia, Bill seriously did need to decompress. And if ever there was a project I could wholeheartedly embrace, it was this one. To say I felt richly blessed at the prospect of spending more time with Bill would be a major understatement. As our friendship deepened, Bill confided that when my original letter arrived, he was not opening mail sent to him via the Foundation for Inner Peace. His own address and phone were unlisted. He was as surprised as I was that he not only felt compelled to read it, but to respond. He chose not to open his letters then because he didn't want to deal with the inquiries or comments they may have contained. He was earnestly trying to dissociate himself from the course. After I had spent some time with him, I realized how extraordinarily out of character it was for him to call me, and certainly to invite us to come out. Jason and I were strangers, and he was an intensely private man. I grew up in a socially active household with all sorts of activities, gatherings, house guests, group meetings, celebratory meals, and it was entirely normal to invite persons we didn't know well, along with friends, to join us. My adulthood in Denver mimicked my growing up years, so his warm invitation didn't seem odd, simply generous and altogether unexpected. Only later did I appreciate the leap of faith it took for him to call, just as it had been for me to respond. We were both being led into unfamiliar territory. What was in character for Bill at the time, however, was being reclusive and pledging everyone to secrecy about his role with the course. Hugh Prather recalls when he and his wife Gail planned their first meeting with Jerry Jampolsky. This is from Hugh Prather. The first time I talked to Jerry, as we were setting up a lunch, he told me there was someone he wanted me to meet, but he wouldn't tell me who it was. He was very mysterious about it. I think he referred to him as Dr. B or something like that. He really wanted to tell me, but he had promised he wouldn't. I think we were pretty well figured out who it was with Jerry's, quote, non-telling, unquote. In the beginning, Bill was very uncomfortable having people know that he was the person associated with the course. He didn't even use his last name when we met him. He was Dr. Bill. Wow. And I can understand that too, because first off, he was probably feeling really unworthy to have that kind of connection with something like the course. Like, how did this happen to me? And I'm not good enough and I'm not worthy. So
And then the other thing is we don't want to be rejected. Like,
yeah,
in other words, if we tell people, they'll say that's not true.
yeah,
And that's the thing. Like, you know, he he was an amazing, him and Helen were amazing for the work they did here, and everyone with them. And that's why I love this book. I love Carol. I love them all. You know, you want me
yeah,
to
it's
finish?
pretty
I'll
amazing.
read
Sure.
when you're ready for me to read, I can read.
Yeah, go ahead and read, starting in having left Columbia.
Having left Columbia only recently, Bill was reticent about openly acknowledge his connection to A Course in Miracles. The title itself sounded peculiar and unscientific. I can see that. He needed the security of few close friends, just as he had not come out as a homosexual and never did officially. He had not yet come out of the ACIM closet. Certainly, other psychologists have been involved with channeling or have received material from unusual and unknown sources, but few had careers as auspicious as his. In addition to his reticence about associating with the course, the radical shift from academic to ordinary citizen was a shock, and he was grieving over the end of the New York era. He wrote, I thought it was amazing that I could see so clearly, and yet the same thing, old ego patterns, kept coming up. I had to leave the whole New York ambience and go to a totally different setting to begin to let go. It was very difficult for me to do that. I was so dedicated to working things out there with Helen. Consistent with his ambivalence about his ACIM association, Bill procrastinated about giving Bob Scutch permission to publish his book on the course's origins, Journey Without Distance. I'm going to stop here for a minute and say that that's a book that changed my life. That one book, I've read it a couple times. And it's just like you can, because we're mind, we can imagine anything. And we're imagining, all this is going on out there, but it's all inside. And what I see with Bill's, that Bob was concerned was this stuff to this day is hard for most people. I mean, I don't even talk about it anymore with my husband or anybody, because if you're not on this path, hi, Nikki. Yeah, I saw that too. She's here. She wants to share. And so Journey Without Distance just gives you the history, but Bob did a great job. He really did. So he had vetoed the earlier version because he was not yet ready for both unwanted publicity. Also, he was honoring Helen's request not to publish the chronicle of you have to turn the page.
Sorry.
That's okay. The ACIM scribing or their personal histories until after her death. Wow. Okay, so I can relate to that too. I'm sure she didn't want to be learned as, known as somebody who was crazy. I mean, that's something in the ego thought system that, if we're crazy, nobody will want us and then we'll be annihilated. So ultimately, of course, Bill saw the wisdom of a complete account of how the course was written and worked with Bob to ensure its accuracy. Bill attained his I can't even say this word, reticence about publicity, partly to his clear remembrance of a former life as Origin, one of the great.
Wow, I did not, excuse me, but this shocked me. Origin is like well, you're going to read about it, but Ken
Yeah,
talks
you can
about
tell me.
Origin
I
all the
would
time.
love to hear
No,
from
no,
you.
you're going to read about it right now, so I don't have to say anything.
Okay. Yeah, you see, you know so much. I mean, I basically, I can tell you're very well read.
Well,
Anyway,
no, it's Ken talks about Origin a lot in his talks, so that's why I'm like, oh, Bill was.
and
This
biblical
great.
scholars of the early church.
Yeah,
Marty, what's that word? Say it again. I can't even.
martyred.
Yeah, like a martyr, martyred around the 25-4 AD from his heretical posture on the basic church doctrines. He was the most influential theologian of the church before St. Augustine. ACM students will find the mystical nature of Origen's teaching strikingly familiar. Given the barbaric torture Origen endured for his beliefs, which probably hastened his death, Bill's reluctance to express his views publicly may have been rooted in a bleed-through awareness of the traumatic time. Instantly, Helen also tuned into this former experience of Bill's. Once she suddenly interpreted discussion of an unrelated topic to disclose this former life to him, a confirmation he found both fascinating and illuminating. It was another of his favorite stories, and he told it with the signature smile of amusement. Okay, Mickey, would you like to share?
Hi, guys.
Hi. You want to read chapter 10? We like when everybody joins if you want to.
Well, one thing that I was going to say, it talks about Bill's reticence to talk about the course publicly. And I know that there are very close friends of mine from before I started studying the course that have no idea that I've ever picked up this book because it's not relevant to anything that has to do with our relationship. And I'm not going to bring it up just, oh, by the way, I'm studying the spiritual text that talks about the world not being real. Why would I
Right.
do that?
Right. And
You
I'm
know,
the same way, Mickey. I don't talk about it to, any of my family, nothing. They have no idea really what I believe at all, other than the ones who live here in this house and here gather all day long.
right.
My
You
youngest
know,
daughter probably knows more because she this used to be her bedroom, and so we had to share for a while because other people were living in the house. So she heard everything gather all day and all night. And but for my other family and friends, I don't mention it because I mean there's many reasons. One, I don't want to answer any questions because I don't know what's appropriate to say to someone who's has no thought about this kind of stuff. And also uh because I am like I was with my children. If you're going to find something, you're going to find it. I'm not going to uh, try to influence you in any way at all. And so, for the most part, they're very spiritual, but not religious at all. And just now, my oldest daughter is becoming a little curious about it, and my son has kind of, he's evolved his own they've evolved their own spiritual lives. And so that's the way I feel. If they're gonna find it, they're gonna find it. And it's, you know, I I think I resented tremendously um being, well, maybe not, being forced into a belief system that didn't, it just confused me about God. And I didn't want my kids to be confused. And when they were kids, they used to come home and say, like they'd go spend the night at some friend's house and they'd take them to church in the morning. And they would come home and they'd be freaked out. Like, oh God, Mom, you not believe what these people were saying and doing. I mean, really was because they had never heard such things before. But for me, I don't. Nobody needs to know I study A Course in Miracles unless you want to know, and then I'll tell you what I can. But I'm not going to be. I don't want anybody to think I'm trying to uh, force a belief on them or tell them something um, that they don't want to hear. It's crazy. But
Well,
anyway,
I'm going to tell you when I found um, all of these teachings. Andrew, my oldest, was a senior, and he was into all of this. He didn't read the course, but he was into Eastern stuff and just a lot of things that he was bringing it to my attention because he said to me, like, Mom, when I was really like fretting about that money that was taken and all that other stuff, he'd say, Mom, don't worry about it. Do the path, do the path. And I would be like, oh, Andrew, he goes, it's all about God. And he was trying to tell me. And I said, I'm going to be with God the rest of my life. Right now, I need my money. Okay, this is how I got. And so it was so funny because when I found the course, I called him because he's always been very curious. He's not on he's on his own path now, and I'm sure, however, his path is unfolding. But sometimes, like, he'll say to me because he knows I love all of this, and sometimes he'll say, "Mom, the world is real, like if as an experience," and I'll say, "Yes, it is." And what I realize is, how could anyone really imagine this not to be real when I couldn't up until recent? Like now I know for sure. In the last couple of days I've had a couple shifts and I just know for sure this is just a matrix. There's nothing really going on. And I hope I keep that because the ego sometimes wants certain things its way because there isn't really anything that really happened. And that's what's so amazing to me. Like, but rather than think about it, that would be the ego. So it's just, so I get what you're saying, Mickey and Lynn, because it's kind of like how many, we got into this book truly because it came into our consciousness. If it doesn't come into their consciousness, it's not helpful. Now, when Jonathan ended up feeling guilty, I did say to him, he's my younger son, because he was in drug addiction a lot of the years that he was raising his kids. I said, "Oh, John, it's a dream." And that helped him. He didn't argue. He just said, "Oh, okay." And that was it. But they know I do this because they know I'm in my groups. I don't like to go places when, Tuesday and Thursdays are my favorite days for the group that we're in. And, it's kind of like what I saw was in my mind was there was certain arrogance, like, oh, they don't have to worry. This is all the ego that was talking to me. They don't have to worry. Just let them read the course. Well, you know, the whole thing is to be empathetic, to understand if you thought this was real, it would be hell. Hell. But at this point, I would say the three of us know on the deepest level, but also in the way, just a couple of weeks ago, I was still like arguing with it. But now it's like, no, I don't want to do that anymore. I just don't. And this is a time when the ego really wants a certain thing to happen, like, the presidency. And I'm kind of like just getting sick of it. What am I looking at? I'm looking at myself. You can only see your own consciousness. So I realized that. So maybe I'll keep my mouth shut. Who wins because this is what I told Doug the other day. I said, if, the right wins, then humanity has more lessons. That's all.
Exactly. And humanity being who?
Me.
Who? That's it. And that's the whole thing. It's me that needs the lesson. So
Right.
what's going to happen if I learn the lesson today? What's going to happen if I learn the lesson right now? There'll be no more need for that lesson.
Right.
It'll be over. And so, this is, we taking responsibility for the world I see is not just taking the responsibility for this is the way I'm seeing it. It's actually taking responsibility for the world I see. The world will change when my mind changes. That's what the Course keeps telling us over and over and over. The world you see is going to change. The miracle is that shift in perception. And what is going to happen is what is there for a healed mind to see. What is there for a healed mind to see? Not chaos, not fear, not, none of those things are there for the healed mind. The healed mind can't see those things. They don't exist. So it may seem like the same world physically, but the world itself that we see through the healed mind is not the chaos that we think it is. It's like, I posted something a long time ago, which I think, was like my own meme I made up, of a robin pulling a worm up out of the earth. And I said, for the worm, this is chaos. For the robin, this is breakfast. And, that's really what it is. For the world, it's chaos. For the healed mind, it's sustenance. So we no longer see the chaos because we become one part of the whole, not just a separate thing that is a worm that's being eaten.
Well, I like the way you
Becomes
put
the
that.
bird.
That was great. That was so great. Because it is that. It's like, a worm. And let's face it, if in the election, if the opposing side, gets in, those people are going to be happy. It's just like that because there's people that pick certain people, and then the ego will say, well, how could they do that? Blah, blah, blah. Well, you know why? Because everybody has a different filter.
That's right. That's
So,
right.
and so
And
it's
it's
this
not that
thing
anybody's going to be happy one way or the other because it doesn't matter what we get. We're
right.
not going to be happy about it because you
You
cannot
can't
be
be. Right. You
happy
can't be. Yeah,
in a world like
right.
this.
No, you can't be. Mm-mm.
As long as you think you're here, that is the source
Right.
of the unhappiness, is the the belief that we're somewhere outside of heaven. So, that's all we have to do is remember that, we're in heaven now. Heaven is here, heaven is now. What do we think that means when Jesus says it in the Course? Do we think it means, oh, this just it's my state of mind, it's the way I see it. No, actually, heaven is here now. And
Right.
the reason
Well,
we're not
yeah.
seeing it is because we're seeing this other stuff. So I
The
love it.
state of mind, heaven. That's all it is.
That's right. That's it. Heaven is in your mind. I think, who was that? Three Dog Night made a song like that. Anyway,
last night, Dove was sharing, about, where he's at in the process. And, I'm going to say this. I think he's completely authentic from knowing him all these years. He really doesn't get the least bit upset about things, anymore. Like he said that. He said he watches the news. He has no reaction.
because he knows it has no effect on him.
Right.
It's no personal, and it has no effect on anyone. See, that's where we get ourselves, is because we think, oh, I'm being kind to other people. I want the most loving thing to happen to the world so that other people will have a better life. Other people won't suffer. Other
Right.
people, other people.
Other people. That is beautiful, Lynn. Yes, that is true. Yeah.
Yeah. I
We
mean,
want to be
they're not
nice people. That's so important for this character that's talking. I want to
Yeah.
be a nice person.
Yeah. 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 I'm going to be a nice person as
Regis,
opposed
hi.
to.
I hope you stay today because we're going to be doing the chapter 15 and 16. Okay, so good.
Yeah, that's exciting too. All right, so let's go on to chapter 10. And like you said, if anybody wants to read, they're certainly welcome to, because we're going to be, hey Regis, we're going to be
There
here
you
for a
go. He
while.
doesn't have his thing up anymore.
Yeah,
Oh,
he's on the chat. I mean on the participant list. Okay, so chapter 10.
oh look,
Early
he's
on.
putting his hearts up. It's so
Oh
sweet.
yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, chapter 10. Early on in California, a coterie of people began to collect around Bill, all part of a grounding network vital to his continued unfolding, while mutually facilitating the healing for all concerned. The initial support group, consisting of Judy and Bob Skutch and Jerry Dombowski, was already in place when Bill left New York. With the morning prayer group, Francis and Roger joined in the circle, along with Jules, became the central who is anchoring into the area. With careers in psychology and psychiatry, they functioned as colleagues, but also became his proteges. Additional members of Bill's support group from different places and walks of life showed up throughout his last 10 years in precisely the proper order. Those closest to him were all ACIM students and formed a family of sorts. Each provided different yet essential elements for his releasing, healing, comforting, and grounding. The foundation was being laid. Bill had made a commitment to practice the course's version of forgiveness, and help to do so was coalescing. Of course, he had many wonderful friends, colleagues, and partners during his first 55 years, but his goals then had been more worldly and divided. He had not yet fully dedicated himself to a spiritual practice. Additionally, many other friends and acquaintances were part of his California life, important in various ways, and who undoubtedly contributed to his well-being. The Course clearly states that there are no accidents. Even the briefest encounter is meaningful and holds the possibility of great healing if we so choose. Nevertheless, Bill, like everyone, was destined to spend more time with some than others. In the channeled reading he gave Bill in 1980, Leroy Zemke predicted that key people would be drawn into his life to provide energy for his transformation, and that being open to allowing them in would bring healing. At the time of this reading, Bill had met some, but not all, of those persons with whom he would spend significant time during his last 10 years. Each of these persons you have mentioned, Bill had given him several names, are part of the pattern, are like keys in a pattern, that will help you. There are many who will help you. What you must be willing to do is to allow them space in your life to assume some of the weight, some of the responsibility that is emerging. You, as you know, have an infinitely careful, painstaking quality about yourself. Whatever you attend to, you can very easily accomplish. Now, as these people appear, they have volunteered out of the love they bear for you and or the larger essence of what has emerged to dedicate a portion of their being to implementing that dimension. As you give them opportunity to assume the work, they will do it. They will do it. And thus, what you can do involves a giving, both in the form of guidance and ideas that need to be set into motion. And secondly, the energy from your own being expressed as love. So, wow, this is really a beautiful message. And this is from that Leroy Zemke, the psychic. So I love this because this paragraph says something to me personally right now. And that is exactly what what's happened to me and what's happening to me. And I think you all see it and you all know it. Now, as these people appear, which is you, everyone here, they have volunteered out of the love they bear for you and or the larger essence of what has emerged to dedicate a portion of their being to implementing that dimension. That's what you guys are doing for me and have been doing for me. And what I think we all did for Dove and continue to do for Dove. And we do it for each other. We are here as a network of helpers that
Yeah,
have
and
come
we're
out of
cheerleaders
love.
for each other, complete cheerleaders for each other.
Yes, and this is a message to me. As you give them opportunity to assume the work, they will do it. Isn't that what you guys have been doing? Is every time anything came up, like my network went down, or I got sick, or I
Right.
went on a trip, or whatever, you all picked up and did it, and I didn't have to worry about anything. And thus, what you can do involves a giving, both in the form of guidance and ideas that need to be set into motion, and secondly, from your own being expressed as love. I feel that so clearly in myself
Yeah.
that, I mean, this is what we're doing here. Let me see. Call her back. I don't know what I just sent her a message. Anyway, but that's how I see it. It's just so important, that if I try to hold on to all of this and try to make this work and make this happen and not give everyone here the opportunity to invest in it themselves, then I would be wearing myself out. I'd be killing myself. I kind of think, Dove was kind of doing that in the beginning, and all he was saying was, come on, take your place as a teacher. That's all he said to me. I'm sure that's what he said to you. I know that's what he said to Regis. I know that's what he says to everyone. Take your place. Come get to work.
Yeah, and I actually learned a lot from just listening to everybody. When I was in Patchwork years ago, that's all I would do is listen. I must have spoken sometimes, but I didn't like share any. I don't even know what it was, but I just know that sometimes when you get into a process like this, it is beautiful to be with a group that, because when ideas are shared, they grow stronger. So that's what happened when I was in Pathwalk. I knew I could never leave this process. I just knew it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when you think about it, because I don't think any of us had any idea when we picked up this that it was going to become or take over. For me, it basically just took over my life.
It
And
does do that. But what I found is I had struggled a lot with trying to understand it. And everybody would say, don't try to understand it, but I still did that because of the ego's beliefs. Beliefs like you have to understand. You don't have to understand any of it. And
no,
that's what Judy said to me. She said, when you do the lessons, just do them. Don't try to and I never met her. She didn't really know me. I just wrote to her. But it was
uh-huh,
just like her ability with her email, which was just so kind,
yeah,
and I could feel that. And we're not in a world. We're minds are joined. We're all together in this. So it's like there are no accidents. It's always like, a perfect symphony of just love.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, I'm going to turn the page and someone else can read. I'll go get our stuff ready for the next group.
All right. Who wants to read? Mickey, Regis?
I can read.
Oh, I'd love to hear you read. Go ahead.
Okay, as Bill spent focused time with some, and then moved on to the next person or group, release was occurring. And where is this from? Where is this quote from?
This
think
is
it's
from
from
the
the course.
course. It's
Yeah.
from, let me look real quick here. I'll take us over here. Pages
10.
433, 434.
Okay. That means
I
nothing.
wish she put the
Yeah.
actual, but that's okay.
Right. Once you accept his plan as the one function that you would fulfill, there will be nothing else the Holy Spirit will not arrange for you without your effort. He will go before you, making straight your path. I love this. I got to find out where this is from. 443. I think it is
433.
433. Okay, this is from Entering the Ark. So it's chapter 20, section 4. And I'm not seeing it right off the bat, but at least we know what chapter and section it's from. But this is beautiful. There will be nothing else the Holy Spirit will not arrange for you without your effort. He will go before you, making straight your path and leaving in your way no stones to trip on and no obstacles to bar your way. Nothing you need will be denied you, not one seeming difficulty, but will melt away before you reach it. You need take thought for nothing, careless of everything except the only purpose that you would fulfill. And that was given you, so will it, and that was given you, so will its fulfillment be. Excuse me. Bill had accepted that plan, and as promised, help was always there when he needed it. Zemke also commented less than 2 years after Bill's move west. The most important, perhaps, of all directions or aspects at present in your life is to ground the physical form, to allow yourself to connect with the earth and with the water, to experience a harmony with the basic elements within the world, and thus provide a more smooth transition for all the work unfolding. Which is a little counter to what the Course is teaching us, that it is not in the physical form that we need to ground ourselves, but in spirit. But it was good guidance for Bill. Bill's first priorities in Tiburon were to settle in, reestablish a sense of stability and security after decades of daily structure, and to meet concrete worldly needs. Sufficient financial support and anchoring into normal everyday life required attention. Bill was skilled in many ways and adept at negotiating the labyrinth of academic power, but he did not operate comfortably in ordinary daily life. He needed routine and support to function effectively in this world, to keep his feet planted on the earth. For instance, Bill had contributed to his retirement fund while at Columbia, but had forgotten to apply for his benefits when he retired. When Pat Hopkins, who entered his life later, found out about this in 1984 through a conversation with Cal Hatcher, she helped him apply for his benefits, significantly increasing his monthly income. Despite sharing a department with a large staff and a sizable budget, he was quite detached when it came to personal finances. Jack Luckett corroborates. First, he was brilliant in abstract thought and analysis, no question. He could go right to the center of an issue and understand it instantly. And the more abstract it was, the easier it was for him to see right into it. It's why he was such a fantastic psychologist. but he was not well grounded in this world. Now, that means relating to food, clothing, directions, appliances, electronic gear, politics, gardening, animals, and children. He did not have a clue about these things. He was not comfortable with and did not understand the governmental political process. He was a great faker. Because of this, he would establish routines in his life, probably because he'd been laughed at earlier. When he found something that worked, he would stick with it, make a routine of it. He told me that for 15 years, he ate at the same restaurant with the same waitress at the same table, ate the same meal every night, except when he was asked out by others. I said, didn't you ever want to go to a different restaurant? And he answered that no, he knew this place, he knew where it was. Can you imagine that? Now, Bill didn't really understand food well. When he and Pat Hopkins got together as roommates, they agreed to share responsibilities in cleaning and preparing food. Well, Bill never prepared his own food, so he was quite nonplussed. He found these frozen enchilada dinners that were good, so he solved the problem. He went down and bought 1 year's supply of the same kind of enchilada dinner and put them in the freezer. Although that certainly seemed more than a little strange to Pat, to him this was a perfect solution. He would just have those dinners from then on. They were fine. They worked. That's pretty funny, thinking about somebody that brilliant and that adept at running his life in a department and a bunch of other people's work and could not navigate this world at all, which kind of attests to how much in spirit he was. It seems like he let spirit guide stuff for him in the world and left the everyday stuff up to the waitress in the restaurant that he went to every night.
It's really cute. And, I see that I'm kind of that myself, very habitual like that. Or, I think, it's kind of, a lot of times people who are neurodivergent, like autistic, have that kind of, mindset, like, okay, this is what I can eat. This is good. And I will eat that. And I could eat every day. And that can get to be really tiresome for other people, that if you happen to be cooking for them. So good thing that it wasn't every day that they were eating frozen enchiladas. And I'd like to know what brand that was, because many of those frozen dinners are all that hot. But I love that idea that, yeah, he was just not grounded in the world in the same kind of way as other people. Now, he was grounded in the world, in some ways, but it's like he was a child, and he had these women who just took care of him. I see it that, throughout his life, even though he never married, he seemed to have someone, there to, make sure that he ate and make sure that he, had the things he needed or whatever. And later on in his adult life, Helen was kind of a surrogate like that for him as well. But
And Judy
yeah,
took care of the care and feeding of Bill a lot.
yeah, yeah. And then that's what we're seeing here, that, there's these, women who decided, they took him on. So, and, that's, I think when people are not grounded in the world like that, uh, they wouldn't survive if, or they wouldn't survive very well if they didn't have the support from other people as well. So, I love it. I love this whole story. It's so cute. Anyway, continue reading.
Well, we're
Oh,
just about at 11:30. Do you
okay.
should
So
we
yeah,
is
thank
this a
you.
good place to stop?
this is a good place to stop. And what I'll do is,
Thank you so much. And Myrna, hi. It's so good to see you. Hi, sweetie.
I know it's
Okay, Vicky,
wonderful.
thank you. And Regis, thank you.